Well, I do think the Sussex overdrive is unbelievable, but I mean, I don't think that he is going to get back in, which showed that he is very commercially minded, which we'll get into later on, which
Yeah.
makes it impossible for him. And of course, Meghan wouldn't come back to Britain.
Harry and Meghan, the other side, smiling and all the rest of it.
Is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
Right.
The Netflix series is over. There's no great podcast. They don't generate any money. And I don't see where she is going from here. I think she has a major problem.
It was Meghan speaking, and now we know it's Meghan speaking again. And so this isn't because the book contains that her brand was in great trouble. American Riviera Orchard, that she had allegedly nicked the idea. She wanted wealth and she wanted fame. And she targeted, there's no doubt she targeted Harry.
And that was very critical because at that moment last year, she was about to promote her Netflix series and didn't want to firstly be seen with Harry, and secondly didn't want to go somewhere where she'd appear cheap. Declining, I think that his reputation is somewhat toxic, and I think Invictus is his only lifeline, and that's what she used as a weapon at the time. So there were quite a few things about her personal life. I'll work them into another book, I think. Meghan didn't like the surname Mountbatten-Windsor. If you remember, in her first lifestyle series with Meghan with them forever, she says to Carling that her surname isn't Markle but Sussex. And she was desperate to get it. She said we never had a proper surname. Of course they did.
By not telling the palace what she's going to do. And I think the most interesting story is the Reitman story. Reitman's is like a Marks and Spencer's in Canada.
In Revenge, you talk about how Meghan's lack of knowledge about British history meant she could not understand that Diana had won the public's affection.
She was warned before she married what the nature of being Harry's wife and part of the royal family would be, and the nature of how she ignored all that advice for two reasons. One is she really did believe she could do what she wanted, and secondly, I don't believe she ever intended to stay. She always intended to take the title, take the connections, and get back to California.
There are moments when a public image doesn't just crack, it shatters. And according to Tom Bower, the shattering has already begun. For years, Meghan Markle built a brand on carefully controlled narratives, personal struggle, royal injustice, emotional wounds, and a sense of being misunderstood by a cruel world. But Bower, one of the most feared biographers alive, says the truth is finally catching up.
To suit Meghan's agenda, and Meghan's living with Meghan is very different than living with Kate and William. Meghan has a completely different attitude, and I think California has a different attitude. So I think we're now seeing a different Harry, and to his misfortune, it's not a Harry that appeals to the same sort of people in the same numbers as previously.
His new revelations don't just expose inconsistencies, they expose strategy. A strategy built on rewriting the past, weaponizing sympathy, and bending facts until they fit the story she wants to sell. And the new evidence he brings forward? It's brutal. He says Meghan didn't just blur the truth, she redesigned it. She monetized royal names, embellished childhood struggles, manipulated timelines, erased people who helped her, and played the victim every time her own decisions backfired.
What Meghan never really understood, probably not even now, is that when she was cheered as a working royal, it wasn't because she was Meghan Markle, it was because she represented British royalty.
And now, the public isn't buying the performance anymore. Bower calls this the moment everything collapses. The brand, the storyline, the fantasy. Because once the mask slips, it doesn't go back on. He says the lies are unraveling, and the evidence is finally spilling out. And today we're going to break down exactly what he revealed.
I think there was that, but I've got to tell you, my research for my new book, the number of times she was warned before she married what the nature of being Harry's wife and part of the royal family would be, and the nature of how she ignored all that advice for two reasons. One is she really did believe she could do what she wanted.
Tom Bower isn't another commentator giving opinions from the sidelines. He's the man powerful people genuinely fear. For decades, he's built a reputation for digging where others won't, interviewing those who were silenced, and exposing hypocrisy at the elite level. His books on prime ministers, billionaires, and royals have shredded PR machines to pieces. And here's the detail everyone forgets. Meghan and Harry never sued him. Not once. For two people who threaten lawsuits over headlines, jokes, opinions, tweets, and even satire. Why avoid Bower? Because he documents everything. Because he interviews people they hoped the world had forgotten. Because he keeps receipts.
See, Meghan loves money. Meghan's very commercial. She doesn't want to be poor. And then having got all that, she then saw how she needed a consort, a husband who was going to take her to the next stage. And she was on a manhunt, there's no doubt. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being on a manhunt. There are women hunts too, but I mean, she was determined.
And most importantly, because he can prove what he writes. Bower isn't emotional about Meghan. He doesn't exaggerate to shock anyone. His power comes from being cold, factual, and relentless. When he says something isn't true, he does it with evidence. Documents, witnesses, timelines, contradictions, insiders who saw everything firsthand. This is why his new statements hit harder than anything Meghan's critics have said before. They're not insults. They're not theories. They're not gossip. They're confirmation.
She is desperate to be seen.
Yeah.
And that's why she turned up. So I think she has a major problem, financially and professionally. And I think that Harry has a problem.
And according to Bower, the collapse began the moment Meghan tried to monetize the Queen's own nickname. Tom Bower calls this moment one of the lowest things Meghan and Harry ever did. And the public reaction proves why. It wasn't just disrespect. It was calculated. According to Bower, Meghan and Harry had already purchased the Lilibet domain name before they even informed the Queen about their daughter's birth. The nickname Lilibet wasn't just a cute family term. It was sacred. It belonged to the Queen's childhood, a name used only by her parents, her husband, and a tiny circle of people she trusted. And instead of treating it with care, the Sussexes turned it into a branding opportunity. Bower explained that when Harry claimed he had asked the Queen for permission, the palace stepped in and quietly told the BBC the truth.
To create her own brand and image in the whole Netflix series, of lifestyle series. She was told she had to give up being the Wicked Witch in terms of the royal family. She should put that all behind her and not mention them because people want to see her, not all the time complaining. She couldn't resist because in the end, one of Meghan's many deficiencies is she has nothing to say. There's no originality.
He didn't ask. He announced it. The Queen was furious. And for the palace to contradict Harry publicly, something they rarely do, meant the evidence was undeniable. When Harry tried threatening legal action to force the BBC to retract the story, the palace still refused. They told the BBC, "Do not apologize. What we said is true." This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't miscommunication. This was a deliberate move that exposed exactly how Meghan and Harry saw the monarchy, as a marketing tool. And according to Bower, this single decision triggered the beginning of their credibility collapse. If there is one subject that exposes Meghan's pattern of rewriting reality, Tom Bower says it's her treatment of her own father.
Whereas Meghan always has to fight for a place. She has to fight for the spotlight. She has to fight to be seen. And being seen is critical to her. And, you know, she can't, if there's another shooting, she can't fly there as she did.
Not because it's painful, but because the facts don't match the story she tells. Bower reveals that Meghan created a narrative of a lonely, struggling childhood. Cheap meals, bargain salad bars, latchkey living, emotional absence. It sounded heartbreaking. It sounded cinematic. But it wasn't true. The reality? Thomas Markle paid for elite private schools, expensive ballet classes, photography lessons, designer clothes, and a lifestyle far beyond most American families. He picked her up from school, drove her to auditions, paid for her car, her university, and every dream she wanted to chase.
In California, I can actually sue to see them, but I don't want to do that. And the other thing is, I've done nothing wrong. There's nothing that points to me says I'm a bad guy. As a matter of fact, I'm a really loving father, and she knows that. And there's no excuse for her to treat me this way. no excuse to treat the king that way as well.
Bower's research uncovered something even more damaging: the famous Procter & Gamble soap commercial story. Meghan's origin myth of activism was not supported by any record. No letter, no response, no evidence the event ever happened the way she described. Her father even admitted he never mailed such a letter. Bower says Meghan began erasing her father only when the image she wanted no longer matched the man who actually raised her. The stories changed. The tone changed. The hero father became a problem. And whether intentional or not, Meghan rewrote her past to center herself as a self-made victim rather than a supported daughter. To Bower, this wasn't confusion or emotional distance. It was branding.
And she gets into one of the best university colleges of America, Northwestern, because of her education and background. So by no means anything other than a happy childhood, although a broken family.
Tom Bower calls the Oprah interview the moment the narrative cracked, and he's not exaggerating. It was a global TV spectacle, a perfectly lit, perfectly staged confessional that was supposed to redefine Meghan and Harry as sympathetic victims of a cruel monarchy. But Bower says it backfired the moment the facts were checked. He points directly at 17 proven inaccuracies in that interview. 17. Not misunderstandings, not memory lapses, contradictions. One of the biggest? Meghan claimed she and Harry were secretly married 3 days before the royal wedding. Bower points out the timeline made it impossible. The Archbishop confirmed it never happened. They weren't married early. They weren't exchanging vows in a private backyard ritual. That entire moment was a story, nothing more.
And of course, they're not allowed to come to the dinner after the wedding. I mean, people whom he'd known for years. And even at the wedding of Tommy and Skip in Jamaica, one of the parents who was there told me that Meghan had behaved appallingly. They just couldn't understand why Harry was going out with her. She didn't like the food, she didn't like them.
Then came the racial insinuation, the dramatic suggestion that a senior royal questioned what color Archie's skin might be. Bower explains that Meghan tied this false claim to an argument about Archie not receiving a title, hoping the two issues sounded connected. But they weren't. The rules were already written long before Meghan entered the family. Archie wasn't entitled to a princely title. That had nothing to do with race. And then, the emotional angle. Meghan insisting she was denied help when she needed it most. Bower says the palace had logs proving she had staff, doctors, and professionals available. For Bower, the Oprah interview didn't expose the royal family. It exposed Meghan. Tom Bower says the Australia tour was the turning point.
I do think that the Australian trip turned their head in a crazy way, although she behaved appallingly during the trip.
Yeah.
But in Harry's view, this was his mother all over again. What Meghan never really understood, probably not even now, is that when she was cheered as a working royal,
the moment Meghan's fantasy collided with royal reality. To the world, the trip looked like a triumph. Cheering crowds, glowing headlines, flawless photos. But behind the scenes, Bower discovered a very different story. He spoke to staff who worked the tour, and their accounts were brutal. Meghan, according to several insiders, behaved like a celebrity expecting VIP treatment, not a representative of the monarchy. She reportedly threw tantrums, snapped at aides, demanded changes on the spot, and even sparked the now infamous tea-throwing incident that shocked the staff who witnessed it. But the deeper issue, Bower explains, was psychological. Meghan believed those crowds were cheering for her. Just her. She convinced herself she was already Diana-level iconic, a star destined for center stage. And then she realized something she hated. She would always rank below William and Catherine. Not because of race, not because of jealousy, but because of royal hierarchy.
Meghan believed she was as important to the monarchy as Princess Diana, you write in the book. And her visit to Australia in October 2018 only boosted that view. The more Harry drew parallels with his mother, and the more Meghan must have been convinced of her importance to the monarchy. Do you still think she's that delusional?
An ancient system she never took the time to understand. Bower says that moment planted the seed. Meghan didn't want to be a supporting figure. She didn't want to stand behind anyone else. And she certainly didn't want to be overshadowed by Catherine's effortless popularity. According to Bower, this is where Meghan's exit plan began. Long before Netflix, long before Oprah. long before the tears and accusations. This was the moment she realized the royal life wouldn't revolve around her. According to Tom Bower, one of the most shocking betrayals didn't happen on camera. It happened before the cameras even rolled. While the world watched the Queen's funeral and hoped for reconciliation, Bower reveals that Harry and Meghan had already recorded their attacks for the Netflix series. Not planned, not outlined, recorded, edited, finalized. When Harry and Meghan joined William and Catherine outside Windsor Castle, the public saw unity, grief, and a fragile peace. What William didn't know, what no one knew, was that the couple standing beside him had already filmed hours of accusations.
And what I really thought at the end of it as well was this, which I think is a very, very pertinent point. When they came across for the Queen's funeral, and there was that amazing scene outside the castle of meeting the well-wishers in the walk, there was always talk of reconciliation. Mm-hmm. Charles and William and Kate go one side, Harry and Meghan the other side, smiling and all the rest of it. But at that time, William didn't know that Harry and Meghan had already recorded their poison for Netflix. It was already edited. All the stuff that we heard today about Charles lying, about William screaming and shouting, was in the can, was being edited, and they duplicitously did not reveal what they were going to do.
Insults and personal grievances targeted at the very people he was grieving with. Bower describes it as a cold, calculated deception. Harry shook hands with well-wishers, while knowing his own voice was already on tape, claiming Charles lied, William screamed, and the monarchy destroyed his mental health. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was strategy. Bower says Harry had done the same thing at Prince Philip's funeral, pretending everything was fine while secretly preparing to release yet another round of damaging claims. But the Netflix betrayal hit differently. Because this time, it wasn't just Harry smearing the institution, it was him doing it in the middle of mourning, while pretending to seek reconciliation. Bower's verdict is brutal. This wasn't hurt. This was duplicity. Tom Bower says one of the most revealing patterns in Meghan's story is her constant reinvention, shifting identities, polished narratives, and carefully curated symbolism designed to elevate her status. And according to Bower, this isn't confidence. It's construction. He reveals that Meghan began modeling herself after Princess Diana long before the public noticed the parallels. The clothing, the jewelry, the poses, the emotional language. Even the misunderstood woman storyline echoed Diana's mythology.
In Meghan's mind, she is Diana.
Yes.
I mean, Diana Spencer is Meghan Spencer. And that was all part of her imagination that somehow she could inherit the glow of her dead mother-in-law. So I think that was another reason for Charles to say no.
But Bower uncovers something even more startling. Allegedly, Meghan and Harry asked Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, if they could use the Spencer surname, not as a tribute, as their family name. Bower says Meghan wanted a brand identity that linked her directly to Diana, bypassing the Windsor name entirely. She didn't like Mountbatten Windsor, claiming it didn't fit her children. She reportedly pushed for Spencer because she knew exactly what it symbolized: prestige, tragedy, legacy, emotion, and global recognition. But Charles Spencer refused, firmly, immediately. Bower interprets that refusal as a warning. The Spencer family didn't want their name tied to Meghan's future scandals or a marriage many insiders believed wouldn't last. This wasn't about identity. It was about image. A crafted persona designed to mimic Diana's light without earning what made Diana beloved: humility, empathy, and genuine public service. For Bower, Meghan's attempts to mirror Diana weren't flattering. They were unsettling. Tom Bower says the collapse wasn't sudden. It was slow, public, and unavoidable. After years of dramatic interviews, emotional monologues, staged photo shoots, and endless victim narratives, the world began doing something Meghan never expected.
For Meghan, because when she phoned up the two senators to campaign for women's maternity pay, she said, "Hello, this is Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex."
Yeah.
I mean, she plays the royal card the whole time. So I don't think that would play well in the election for Congress or even the Senate. So I think they've got to realign their image. I mean, I think in any case, they're burning out their royal status pretty fast now.
They started fact-checking. Hollywood cooled off first. Producers, publicists, and studios quietly stepped back. Bower explains they didn't want to risk relationships with the royal family or be dragged into Meghan's constant drama. Invitations dried up. Collaborations stalled. Then came the media cracks. Magazines that once praised her began publishing uncomfortable truths. Vanity Fair, The Cut, The Hollywood Reporter. Even outlets previously friendly to her stopped repeating her talking points without proof. Spotify ended the podcast deal with a blunt public criticism. Netflix downgraded future projects. Archewell's charitable impact numbers shrank to embarrassing levels. And public polling? Disastrous. In the US, their approval fell lower than ever. In the UK, they hit historic lows. And in Australia, a country Meghan believed she won over, people now openly reject them. Bower says none of this happened because of racism, jealousy, or royal conspiracies.
So I think they've got a real identity crisis, which will be resolved in the next few months, one way or another. I don't think it can be to the good. But the point about it is, you see, they're notorious.
It happened because people finally saw the pattern. Stories that didn't add up. Facts that changed to fit the moment. Emotions used as a shield. Blame placed on everyone except the person telling the story. Meghan and Harry didn't lose support overnight. They lost it piece by piece every time a new inconsistency surfaced. And every time Bower exposed another truth the public wasn't supposed to see. According to him, we're watching the final stages now, and the unraveling is only speeding up. After years of research, interviews, leaked documents, insider testimony, and quiet conversations behind palace walls, Tom Bower leaves his harshest assessment for last, and it's devastating. He says Meghan has reached a point where no narrative can save her. Not a new interview, not a new rebrand, not a lifestyle series, and not another emotional monologue about being misunderstood.
And she wanted the cover and control of the content, and they had a huge argument. And that meant that he was really finished with her. He'd had enough of her prima donna behavior, and that's why he's dumped her. But also, I mean, from his point of view, what does she now bring? There isn't anything original. There's no great sales point there. And I think you've got to look at something else. You mentioned at the beginning, Sam Kashner.
The public has already seen too much. The inconsistencies are too obvious. The contradictions too frequent. The manipulation too blatant. According to Bower, Meghan's downfall isn't because she made mistakes. It's because she repeated the same behaviors every time. Rewriting history, shifting blame, playing victim when challenged, and attacking anyone who didn't support the story she wanted told. Bower says the collapse we're witnessing is not random. It's predictable. The media deals are drying up. The royal bridge is burned. Hollywood is stepping back. Public sympathy has evaporated. And the one card she played over and over, the I was wronged card, doesn't work anymore. But Bower's final blow hits even harder. He says Meghan's biggest problem isn't the public, the press, the palace, or even Harry. It's that she built an entire global brand on a version of herself that couldn't withstand the truth. And once the truth comes out, once evidence exposes the lies, there's nothing left to protect the image she created. Bower believes the next year will be the most revealing yet. Not because Meghan speaks, but because the world finally stops listening.